Hey, Estella. Firstly, thank you for joining us today, taking part in this video series that we're putting together, looking at AI agents and agentic AI. Yes, so first of all, welcome to the conversation. How are you?
Thank you, Trevor. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is an important conversation, so we're delighted to be part of it.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much for finding the time. I know you are crazy busy with all that you've got on your plate, so carving out some time is really appreciated. Let me set the scene a bit and then we'll crack straight into the questions. So there's been a lot written, ChatGPT arrived 18 months, 2 years ago. Nobody knew about it. Now everyone knows about it. Probably brought AI to the masses in a way that everyone felt more comfortable about. So that's been quite a rapid development. 2025 seems to be a lot about agentic AI and AI agents. And I think that's the context of where we're coming at this from, is like, if we didn't know about ChatGPT, look at where we are 2 years forward. We've just found out about these AI agents. I wonder what it might look like in 2 years' time. Now, a lot is being written about AI agents, but the focus tends to be more on the traveler side, i.e., how we may be booking hotels, searching, finding hotels in the future, or it's geared towards hotels themselves and how it may impact them in terms of, improving guest experience, efficiencies, productivity, those kind of things. But very little seems to have been discussed on how these agents could actually impact guys like yourself at Zucchetti, the actual hotel tech providers. And does this provide opportunities? Is it threats? Which one? So that's the angle that we wanted to take with a narrowing down the focus on the provider side of things. So let's kick this off. And as I've said to everybody in these interviews I've been doing, I'm a positive type of person. So we'll start with what opportunities these are presenting first and foremost. A very simple question. What unique opportunities do you see AI agents and agentic AI could unlock for hotel tech providers?
Sure. Well, and I think it is a little bit of what we're hearing so far, the perspective that the guest and the hotels have. It is almost like this technology is forcing us once again to simplify their journey, right? So to see how it's going to affect us, we have to see what is happening right now. And what we're seeing right now, again, not unknown and not very similar to what you said, is that the way that guests are finding and booking their stay is changing. And how we leverage the technology that we offer to address this is a very unique opportunity. So honestly, it was a little bit ridiculous that guests had to navigate to dozens of sites to compare prices and to gain the confidence that they were getting the best deal. And both from the hotelier and the technology perspective, we were not making that job easier, right? We kept coming up with, okay, let's come up with a gated offer. Let's come up with an offer for someone that is in town. Let's come up, what have you. And then you have the big providers, the OTAs, coming up with loyalty schemes, coming up with rules like rate parity. That's something of their creation. So all of this created a pain for the consumer, and agentic AI is providing a pain reliever, right? And so it's almost like, wait, that's what we do. That's what we do when we create technology products. So we have to, once again, take a look at that journey and, simplify that. So also, I do want to make a parenthesis to say, I believe this is going to have a ripple effect. This is going to have a ripple effect because hotels have this window to create and maintain and reclaim that direct relationship with the guest. It has to be powered by cloud technology, right? So as providers, how are we looking at that journey? How are we looking to what this tool will need so that we can have the hotels reclaim that relationship.
Yep.
So we need to focus on how to empower the tool that the guests are going for that look and book to foster those deeper connections. Now, also, I do believe this is happening in phases. So the search function is very well done. It brings a lot of options. It's great. Where I think there's opportunity and where we, particularly technology providers, can jump in that opportunity is on that live ARI data. And what we know, I know we're going to touch on the Holy Grail, which is the integrations, the openness of systems, the ability as cloud providers to bring this very real information to meet the guest where they are going to now have this experience and make it richer.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So from just narrowing down and looking at what you guys are doing at Zucchetti, and without giving away competitive information, obviously, I get that, but are you able to kind of expand a little bit more of what you're seeing across the different platforms that sit under the Zucchetti brand of how AI agents are, you see those opportunities developing?
Yes. Well, first, we have to start and look at what are the tools that exist today and how do we connect to them. Within our environment, we have several cloud technologies that can allow this live availability rates, inventory, and this volatile data and this interaction of volatile data happen. Particularly those that serve the guest, that direct booking path are the ones that can leverage that first. We take a look at what are the functions that hotels are doing manually today, from the loading of data to the creating of images, to the creating of translations. Agentic AI can help with all of that. Again, first with maintaining a presence themselves that is very rich. Because that, if, at one point, I believe that right now is a unique competitive advantage to independents.
It would
seem
to
be. They have more freedom into the information that they provide. They have more freedom on how to bring local information, local flavor, publish their reviews, so on and so forth. So as technologists, when we're providing that agentic AI tool that helps with those manual repetitive tasks, that's the first step we're taking. And we do that with one of our products. But in general, overall, looking into how we can make these connections so that the hotel has the ability to show up and be visible to their guests to gain that direct booking.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Opportunities is one side of the coin. Threats is the other side of the coin. And I guess this is what started me thinking on this journey, reading an article a while ago about how it was just a provider was talking about how they were working with companies and getting to know that company and then developing AI agents that would then operate on their data platform. And so I thought, well, hold on a minute. If people can go out and start creating these agents, what threat does this pose to all these different pieces of we talk about the hotel tech stack, and they're often a combination of SaaS cloud-based solutions that talk through APIs that come together and work as a uniform solution. And so I guess that's why we wanted to start these interviews to say, okay, but is that just my perception with a very limited knowledge? What are you guys as actual providers of solutions? How do you see these AI agents, and what threats do they potentially pose to the hotel tech vendor landscape as we see it?
No, I agree. I think it is our moment to lead by example. You've heard me say before, Trevor, that I see technology as a great equalizer with our clients, with hotels, right? With those that embrace technology can bring teams with much experience up to the forefront of what is happening, what is the latest happening in technology, but they can also welcome new entrants that maybe don't have that experience, and it creates a great equalizer and a great way to embrace change across both the team members that have a lot of experience and those that are new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of our time to live that as well as providers.
Okay.
So I mentioned a moment ago that I see this evolving in phases, right? Mm-hmm. And how we providers adapt to this phases, that will be critical. Because again, there is a shift in how the guests are interacting with the technology, which means there has to be a shift in how the hotels interacts with the guests, with this technology that is not just one more channel, right? That is not just one more feature or function or something like that. But how do we all adapt to give the power to the traveler themselves? And I think we will see it based on where the focus of each technology is. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I am seeing that Booking.com, Priceline have already adopted and embedded Agentic AI to make the planning trip easier for their guests. And that's fantastic, right? That's their strength. That's what they do. They want to make it easier. They want to make it easier for guests that are already there. But it means the guest is there, right? So,
exactly.
Again, the truly disruptive element is that this power now is going to travelers. So my example is simply to say, we as providers embed agentic AI to make our applications better into where our expertise is, but then we have to pause and look at what other elements of that decision making will be affected, and what do we need to build that does not exist yet. So again, for a portal like Priceline and Booking.com, implementing agentic AI to make the planning easier, perfect. They still have to look at the thread of how do I get them there? From, let's say, a CRS provider like us, we have already implemented agentic AI to replace the manual tasks like the ones I was mentioning for hotels that are building the system. But now we have to look at, and how are we going to connect to them to provide direct availability? And how are we going to use the intelligence of the strategic systems like RMS to bring those booking decisions and those pricing decisions into this new environment? In other words, there is a threat, if you will, that we will be disrupted. Fact that we take steps into first what we know that we must automate and this helps with, and then what we don't know, but that is where things are going. That's the only way to ride this new wave of disruption.
Makes a lot of sense. And to your point about looking at a large player like Booking.com, and also about focusing on the traveler and how the traveler is now taking a greater priority or control than they had before, leads me to ask the question and focus our questions a little bit around the large hotel groups, because obviously they are sitting there with size, with scale, with huge amounts of data, massive loyalty schemes that has huge value. And so I'd be interested in your thoughts of almost, are we back to the future a bit? It's where they started developing their own solutions, and then we could see new players come in to provide better best-in-class options. I wonder now whether we may see some of the larger players looking at it and thinking, well, we have the data. If we can get hold of our data, structure it, consolidate it, these agents can also also infiltrate and work with unstructured data. That's the value of them that they can have. I wonder if you think we might see a divergence possibly of the larger brands starting to think we could actually take elements of the tech stack where we have used external third parties, and we could actually build agents to replicate that in-house that can run on our own data, and we can then control that. And into your point about the traveler, we know the traveler probably better than anybody else. There are day-to-day interaction. We could actually really tailor this to seek that advantage. What's your thought on that play?
Because this agentic AI is very much bringing that narrower and narrower serving of information into the preferences of whoever's searching, right? It's almost like they are now there to serve as scouring the internet for what it is the perfect thing that they need. I do believe that gives advantage to the branded side in terms of serving the very unique needs of a traveler that they know a lot about, right? And, from loyalty perspective, etc. However, on that initial serving of the options to the traveler, when they're not on the branded side, here is where the independents could have an advantage. Here is where the branded sites could fall short of what that agentic AI needs, because it doesn't have, again, the freedom and the identity to differentiate each property. There is a benefit in standardization, but there's a lot of hidden filters for you to get to your ideal property. Agentic AI does not go through those filters today and can potentially highlight an independent property that has a clear presence, that is relevant, has good reviews, it's trusted, has information about the area, events, relevant rates, so on and so forth. So it's similar to what I was mentioning earlier about once you get the guest to go to the portal where you want to serve them and know a lot about them, then at this moment, yes, the big consolidators have the advantage. But when that interaction is still happening on the guest's own terms,
in that exploratory phase kind of piece,
that exploratory phase, then I do believe there is an advantage for independents that act on having this clear information, this clear value proposition, honestly, of why they are the best in serving that guest. But as with everything, we will see this evolve. That independent property also has to think about, do I have cloud technology on my tech stack? Because not only do I need to show that presence to be, again, trusted and clear and show up on that search, but do I have cloud technology that then is empowering all the way to book? And is that cloud technology applying enhancements and innovation to get us there, right? So it is really a game of we must be there, but then we must continue to evolve, because there's going to be advantages on both sides.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Switching tact a little bit and back to the hotel technology vendors. We've seen some consolidation, some acquisitions over the last year, and a bit before that, but predominantly, we're aware of some of our partners. I'm wondering what your thoughts are in terms of whether you see this, again, this using my Back to the Future analogy, where we used to have this one-stop shop was always the phrase a number of years ago, and then that wasn't delivering, and other players came into the market and were better at disrupting and developing a specific product that became best in breed. And I'm wondering how the technology, the hotel technology provider landscape might change or morph over the next couple of years? And will we see greater consolidation as we lean into the one size fits all option, or is there still a space for best in breed? Now, I have a follow-up question to that, but we'll just tackle those two options as to what direction you think it might take, if one or both.
No, absolutely. I think it will. I think it absolutely, there will be more space for consolidation, more space for new entrants that are doing exciting things that maybe disrupt a portion of the business, and then the bigger players, or the ones that have additional technologies, will absorb them to make use of them. I can tell you from experience here at Zucchetti, we kind of follow the approach of best of breed, and we have technologies, and I'm focusing on the hospitality side, hotel hospitality side. We have technologies that take care of the operational side and the strategic side and the tactical side, right? From price to book to online presence, so on and so forth. But how we have these systems interact with each other, and how we push the boundary of the integration, if you will, of when someone adopts more than one system within our solutions, is one way in which we serve the guests better, and we create this advantage for those that are using multiple systems. I think agentic AI is simply going to be a layer that is either added or embedded across applications, and you have to look at where will agentic AI be used, again, in these phases, to see where do you implement it, and then the rest of the systems can adapt by integration, or again, by consolidating more of these systems, but making them work together. For example, if we're seeing that the search is being very successful, and that's for guests, and that search can bring additional advantage for independence. So then what are the systems that face the guest with that interaction that have to serve it first, right? Mm-hmm. And then what is the data coming back, whether it is that property is selected or not? And what do we do with that data to then the system that is making decisions about pricing? And so how do we bring these elements from the forefront all the way to the back, and all of the way back to the forefront of the guest? That's where, part innovation, part consolidation, and part this new thing that we're all inventing together will, truly make that gap wider. So I think it's inevitable. Whether it's with solutions that we have in-house, or looking out for those disruptive new elements that are focusing in those particular pain points that are being solved today, and then bringing those into our organizations.
No, that's some very good points in there. I just want to pick up, because Zucchetti are an interesting company in the sense that we're talking to you within the hospitality division, but it also caters through other solutions to other markets that aren't hotel hospitality related. And one of the things I wondered, and back to what I mentioned earlier, that this was an article that I'd read that was not hospitality related. It was it was a service industry that they were working with. But it was more, in a general commercial. And I was sitting there and I'm thinking, well, how easy would it be for new entrants that have maybe been a little bit ahead of the curve, may have been working with some of the major consultancies already, developed solutions that they're pushing out into other industry sectors, and they look across at the hotel sector, which they know has traditionally been a little bit slower to take up on technology, but where they maybe feel there is some traction. So it'd be really useful to get your perspective of how easy you think it would be for non-hotel developed solutions to bring that agentic AI and AI agents across and start to refine it and develop it. Because if you have mature competitors coming into the market that are more established than new players, that brings a different challenge to a new startup.
It does. It does. And it's very interesting what we're seeing out there from the various technologies. And I think it is true that they come with a different lens and make us question how it is that we're implementing things. It is how we bring them into hospitality that makes a difference, right? So we have this amazing product that is vision checkout that could literally look at a tray and tell you what is on it and price it accordingly. So it is looking at these technologies and saying, okay, what is applied here that we could leverage on our side, and only acting on those that can, understanding the full aspect that where we are behind on the hotel side, but what can we evolve and make a tangible difference, not just technology for technology's sake. Again, that is how we took the approach of what are the tasks that hotels are not doing today, and they are manual tasks, but they bring a better light of their presence online. And that's how we make those decisions.
Sure, that makes sense. Again, switching tact a little bit now and putting a hotelier hat on. Not that I've been one, but I'll put the hat on and pretend for a bit. So I'm hearing all this noise going on about AI agents, lots being written. I've probably got various stakeholders sending me emails or regular calls, bringing it up and discussing it. But you guys are on the technology side. You know the challenges of bringing a solution into a market. You know the intricacies that exist in the hotel sector. It's not a straightforward industry to make technology work. The basis of AI agents lives or dies around data and how that data is handled. And so I guess one of the things, it's become more prevalent over the last couple of years. People are much more aware of the value of data now. But I'd just like to get your perspective and angle on what are maybe some of the things that hoteliers need to just be mindful of, and maybe have a degree of caution or at least question from a data perspective before they maybe go too fast into this AI agent avenue and get overly excited about it?
That's a great question, Trevor. I think the key is that understanding of data, marrying that with the understanding of their guest. So I'm going to start first by just recommending for hoteliers to, if they want to truly be participating in this wave of agentic AI, to truly look at their solutions and see that they are using cloud technology. I know it's not new, and I know it sounds like, wait, that's something that we've recommended a decade ago. Still, first thing, please look at what you have in-house and understand that cloud technology is a must-have, and it's foundational to go where we're going to go with agentic AI and so forth. Then again, look at your guest, look at data, right? So where are your guests' information coming to you today, and what are you doing with that? If you are a property that relies deeply on OTAs, what does that do to your data? If that's going to continue, what plan do you have to see what data you're going to have to work with from then on? If you don't have an immediate plan and you are an independent, know that you have much more autonomy of your presence online, much more autonomy of the systems that you choose. So what is your presence online going to look like? What do your reviews look like? So look at all of this different elements centered on data, because again, if you want to ride this wave, that's where it starts. So look at the sources of data, look at, know your guest, know your property, know your value proposition, and what can you affect, ultimately thinking long term, but what can you affect so that you start by creating this basis of the valuable data that you have influence on today and those that you will plan to build on and continue to build on, where agentic AI will bring you results in the future.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just want to pick up on your point about marrying the data with the guest, and then the guest data, and then we look at the whole privacy piece, and where compliance, regulation, I mean, that in itself can be a bit of a minefield.
Yes, I completely agree. And that is also why, for many of us, technology providers that have been doing this for decades, is a priority. Those are questions that must be asked when you're choosing a provider. How are they dealing with the data privacy? What are they doing for bringing the information that the guest wants? How can you reach back if you choose to reach back? What gates are put in place? All of that. The hoteliers have the ability to ask these questions and choose a provider that helps them on that side, but they must ask those questions to use the data effectively.
And I guess along with asking about that, I guess another point is when looking at who's going to provide, if you were to try and do this in-house and code up your own agent, knowing who's providing that and a trust level, because we are seeing data breaches all the time. I mean, so not only compliance with what you can or can't do with the data, but just security around that data. And, if to me, because the way I've learned to understand about these agents through this series, there could be multiple agents that run sequentially as a task is being done. Well, to me, the moment I am adding one extra layer in, that potentially opens up a chink that someone could look to exploit if I don't have that absolutely locked down. So to me, I'm not a naysayer. I think this is a fascinating technology, but I think sometimes we don't always consider all of the implications of what will come along with that. And security, to me, seems like a big potential flag that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. I think it is very important. It is very important. Again, even when I say, when you're thinking about data and you're thinking about the guest, the security and the potential risk to your guest data is at the forefront. So when you are working with providers, particularly providers that are certified, we have to go through testing where we have simulations of someone trying to penetrate into our system, and we have to pass those simulations, and we have to pass these very stringent structures of making sure that our system can defend against those attacks. And we have to do that year after year after year. So when I say think about guests and think about data, you have to think about the security of that data as well.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so with my hotelier hat on, the reason we thought about doing the series this time of the year is because when those initial thoughts start to come around about budgets for 2026. So here we have a lot being written about this new shiny piece of technology. We have people talking to us left, right, and center saying we should be thinking about it. We have a potential, maybe a divergence, maybe a not divergence of brands and independents. We may have consolidation or new players coming into, there is a lot of change that is potentially going to be happening over the next couple of years. So if I'm sitting there thinking, what do I do with my budget for technology for 2026? What would you be advising? What would you be, if you were sitting down in a room with a bunch of hoteliers and they're saying, okay, Estella, what on earth should I be doing? What should I be thinking when I'm having these thoughts for next year?
I think the one thing that doesn't change is you have to look at your budget in thinking what is working and what is not, right? So even if we remove agentic AI or the agentic word for a moment, and we just talk about AI, even from, if you're thinking budgeting, if you're thinking forecast, what is working and what is not? Where are you applying automation today? And where could you apply automation in this coming year to truly allow your team to make the decisions of what do we automate next? The reality is the investment on technology ideally can or should start at a smaller scale, and then if it's working, then
accelerate it,
put more fuel in the fire. But if your team members do not have the freedom to go and check if something new is working or not, you're going to stay in that small scale and never evolve to the potential of what you decided to invest in the first place. So start with what is working, what is not, what do I need to move to a cloud technology, what do I need to move to automation, so you can truly start at a small scale with what are your providers going to do for agentic AI, those that you've chosen, those that you're moving to, and then try the new tools that they are bringing. Try the again, at a smaller scale, but free up your team to have the conversation and create these new, I want to say KPIs, but they don't even have to be formal. Something that you see, is this now working better because we invested in technology? And how am I going to, what are the gates that I'm going to check on that, at a quarter or twice a year or at the end of the year? And not just, again, stay in that small scale because that's all your team had the bandwidth to do.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's interesting. A couple of others that we've spoken to have kind of indicated a similar approach. It's like don't not do it. Don't. It's a bit. Gambling's the wrong analogy, but if you're at a casino, you can go all in, or you could put a couple of chips down and see if your gut feeling's working, and then you're evaluating and seeing if you're actually seeing some progress. And to your point, it doesn't have to be like a solid ROI. You just need to ask yourself a question: could this do X, Y, and Z? Let's explore it. Let's test it out. Did it achieve what we thought it was going to achieve, or did it not? And what do we learn from that? And how do we take that learning forward? No, I think that's some very good advice.
And if you're going to need team members to help with that analysis and that conclusion, what do those team members need help with? That the technology budget can allow them to then go and run this experiment for you.
Yeah.
Right. So it is both the enabling and the trying, right? Because you still have to deal with people and results and what's important to you. But there are some good things to start with, but start.
And on that note, we have to stop. But that's a great way to end it. But thank you so much. Whenever we talk, you always have such good views and such great insights. So it's really appreciated. Thank you so much.